Hello and welcome to this video, which will provide you with information about the three tasks in the edTPA. This video is designed to provide you with information that will be helpful to you as you set about completing the three tasks in the edTPA. Specifically, I will provide an introductory breakdown of each of the three tasks, and I will make some suggestions regarding important references in the edTPA handbook for your level or your content area. I strongly recommend that you download your specific edTPA handbook from LiveText and have it open as you view this video, as I will be referring to information in the handbook regularly. The edTPA basically consists of three tasks. Task 1 is planning for instruction and assessment. Task 2 is instructing and engaging students in learning. And Task 3 is assessing student learning. Each task will ask you to carry out some of the common tasks that teachers do every day. In addition, each task will ask you to carry out personal reflection through responding to commentaries that are made up of questions with space for response. Academic language, which consists of language functions, language demands, and how you will support students to use academic language, are also part of each of the three tasks. This visual provides an overview of the edTPA architecture. You can see that the focus is on student learning. That's at the center. Revolving around student learning are the three tasks: planning, instruction, and assessment. Each of these three tasks will require you to reflect on your practice and to address how you support the academic language development of students in your classroom. Task 1 of the edTPA is focused on planning for instruction and assessment. Teachers need to plan regularly. Task 1 is designed to assess a prospective teacher's ability to plan for a specific class. To complete this task, you will create a learning segment, which is 3 to 5 consecutively taught lessons. In secondary, the learning segment will be taught for one specifically chosen class period. For elementary, the learning segment will be taught for one specific content area, either mathematics or literacy. After you create your learning segment, you will reflect on the choices you made as you planned. If you are looking at your specific handbook, which you should be able to access from LiveText, you should now look at the What Do I Need to Do section of Task 1. To find that section, go to the table of contents and then click on the section you want to see. Reading through this section of the handbook will help you to see and understand what you need to do to complete Task 1. In Task 1, there are 5 parts. Details about each part will be discussed in a moment. Part A is the context for learning, which is a specific template to download and complete. Part B includes the lesson plans for the learning segment, all put into one file. Part C consists of the most important instructional materials for the learning segment, also put into one file. Part D includes some of the main assessments that you plan on using in your learning segment, again, combined into one file. Finally, Part E is the planning commentary, which is also a template to download and complete. Now we will look at each part in more depth. On LiveText, you will find a number of templates that you should download. One of those templates is called the Context for Learning, Part A. The purpose of this template is to provide information about your school, your students, and your curriculum. It will be no more than 4 pages, including the prompts, and you will answer the questions directly on the template by typing between the brackets or in the table provided. Here you can see an image of the template with an arrow pointing to one of the sets of brackets. Please do type inside those brackets. The template will automatically format what you type. Once you have decided either the class period in secondary or the content in elementary, you will need to create 3 to 5 lesson plans that will be taught consecutively. This is Part B of Task 1. You should create your lesson plans with a substitute teacher in mind. In other words, another teacher should be able to pick up your plans and follow them. As you're planning, know that consecutive lessons might look differently in different areas. For example, a secondary teacher on an alternating block schedule would only see the students every other day, so 3 consecutive lessons could take a week or more to complete. However, an elementary teacher who teaches the same block of time each day could complete consecutive lessons in 3 days. edTPA does not officially mandate a specific format or type of lesson plan. This means you could use a lesson plan format from your methods classes or one from your mentor teacher or school. However, even though you are free to choose the format of your lesson plans, you do still need to have some specific information contained in each lesson plan. First, you need to have the appropriate content standards for the lesson. You can use state or district standards, but they need to be carefully chosen and included in each plan. Second, you should also have your learning objectives, or the things you want your students to be able to do in the lesson. These should align directly to the standards and should be very clear as you continue your instruction. Third, you should have your formative or summative assessments. They can be formal or informal, but they should be able to be used to determine whether the students learned the concepts and to make instructional plans moving forward. Fourth, you must include your instructional strategies. These are the actual things that you are doing in your lessons and that the students are doing in your lessons. Be clear and concise. A substitute or another teacher should be able to follow the plans as you have written them. Finally, you need to create the materials that students might need. These materials will be uploaded in Part C, but you should very clearly reference them on the corresponding lesson plan. As you are planning the lessons, though, it is important to note that the lesson plans can be no longer than 4 pages per lesson. These lesson plans are not meant to be incredibly detailed papers about what you are doing in class. Instead, they are clear and concise, focusing specifically on the 5 elements that need to be in the plans. Once they are complete, combine all the plans into one Word document so that all of your plans are in one file. As you combine them, though, make sure that each lesson plan is clearly labeled and that the instructional materials are clearly referred to in the plans. Speaking of instructional materials, Part C is where you will include your materials. Basically, your students will see something, read something, or do something. Those things, like a visual, a PowerPoint, a specific text, or a handout, are the materials that you might choose to include. For Part C, you will choose the materials that you think are most important and submit them. However, you can include no more than 5 pages per lesson, so be sure to choose the best or most important ones and then combine them all into one document. Part D focuses on the assessments that you will use during your learning segments. These assessments can be formative, which are usually short, quick checks that you use during the teaching as you try to understand what students know. Or they can be summative assessments, which are usually the final assessment at the end of the learning to allow students to demonstrate their learned knowledge or skills. You can choose to use both kinds of assessments in ways appropriate to your discipline, or you can choose to focus on one. For Part D, then, you will select your formative and/or summative assessments and include them. If you choose formative assessments, describe how you will assess the students and how you will know what they know. This can be a quick narrative description. For example, if you choose to do an exit slip, you would describe what you would have the students write and what you would look for as you read the slips. If you choose summative assessments, you will upload a blank copy of the assessment or the description of the assessment that you would give to your students. You can choose if you are going to submit one assessment or multiple assessments. However, it is really important to note that one of the assessments you submit must be the assessment you use in Task 3. We will talk more specifically about what that assessment will look like a little later in this video. But you should look ahead to Task 3 in your handbook before you submit your assessments, just to make sure that you are submitting at least that assessment. Once you have decided what assessment or assessments to use, you will combine them into one file and then upload that file. Part E of Task 1 is the planning commentary. This is a question and response section designed to allow you to demonstrate your reasoning and the rationale behind your planning decisions. Essentially, you will respond to a series of questions and prompts that will ask you to reflect on what you chose to do and why you chose to do it. You will also need to think about your students and what your students need in order to learn what you have planned for them. On LiveText, you will find the template for the planning commentary, which is pictured here. Download that template and type your responses directly on the template. Place your cursor between the brackets that are found for each response. You will not change font or formatting in any way. As you respond to the prompts, you should pay attention to the overall length of the document. The planning commentary can be no more than 9 pages in length, and that total includes all of the prompts. On the commentary itself, you will see a page count on the bottom right corner. Use this as you type to keep track of the length. As a general guideline, you should always aim to be close to the maximum page length. If you find yourself at 4 pages, for example, you might consider going back to your prompts and expanding or elaborating on your responses. You will be assessed on the overall quality of your responses, but in this case, you are aiming for elaboration and not brevity. That is the end of Task 1. Again, there are 5 parts, including 2 templates that you need to download and use. Task 1 focused on planning. Task 2, then, will focus on implementing those plans for instruction in your classroom. Task 2 turns the focus to your teaching, specifically to your instruction and engagement with students. In Task 2, you will teach the learning segment that you just uploaded for Task 1, and then reflect on how that instruction went and how you engage students during that instruction. You will video yourself as you teach specific portions of your learning segment. As you watch this, it might be helpful to go to the What Do I Need to Do section for Task 2 in your handbook. Go to the table of contents and click the appropriate link. For Task 2, there are only 2 parts. Part A is the video clip or clips, depending on what your handbook requires. Part B is the instruction commentary, which is a template that you will download and use. Part A is where you will upload the video clips. However, it is important to note that your video requirements are determined by your content area and your handbook. Refer specifically to the What Do I Need to Do section of your handbook to see exactly what kinds of videos you need and how long those videos should be. Again, requirements will be different based on content and age level, but everyone will be recording some part of teaching for this section. Some of your districts may also require a specific consent form for the edTPA. Some districts, on the other hand, have an all-encompassing agreement that all students and parents sign at the beginning of the year. Check with your district by asking your principal, your mentor teacher, or your district facilitator to see if you need to have students sign a specific consent form for the edTPA. If you do, use the consent form in the additional materials section that accompanies this video. If by chance you have students or parents who are unwilling to sign the form, simply place the camera in a location that will not film those students. This may happen, and it is well within the students' or parents' rights to say no, but you can still record yourself teaching if you are just careful with the placement of the camera. Before you begin videoing your teaching, you might want to do a practice run with your camera. You need to make sure that you can be heard and that your students can be heard. A quick practice run with the camera will allow you to watch a short video just to make sure that everything is working. One of the biggest reasons that some past students have scored poorly on the edTPA is because the video was either unable to be watched or the students or teacher were unable to be heard. Avoid this by practicing first. The videos need to be continuous and not edited. This means that once the video starts playing, it needs to play continuously without any cuts until the end of the video. If you discover that you need to cut some of the length to meet your specific requirements, you will need to either cut at the very beginning or cut at the very end. Do not, under any circumstances, cut or edit the video in the middle. Because of size limitations on the files, you should also compress the video. There are instructions for how to do this in the references of this module, so take the time to read those and learn how to compress the videos. It makes the uploading process much easier, and you will know that your file is an acceptable size. Once again, check the specific content requirements for your content and grade level. That will tell you what you need to video, how many videos you need to have, and how long the videos can be. And all of that may vary depending on what handbook you are using. Part B is the instruction commentary. This is a template with questions and prompts that will allow you to demonstrate your reasoning and the rationale behind your instructional actions and decisions. Essentially, you will reflect on what you chose to do and why you chose to do it. The questions and prompts will also ask you to provide evidence from the videos to demonstrate some key things, like promoting a positive learning environment, engaging and deepening student learning, and analyzing teaching. For the evidence you are asked to provide, you will need to watch your videos and refer to specific moments in them. To do this, look at the timestamp of the moment that you want to cite. In your response, you will use that timestamp much like you would use a page number if you were quoting something from a book for a paper. Be sure to do this for any specific moment that you want to use as evidence, as it will allow your assessor to view that section to see what you are writing about. Additionally, if you have students on your Context for Learning, which is Task 1, Part A, who have additional needs, such as students on an IEP or a 504, you may need to specifically reference them along with timestamps for the appropriate moment in the video. On LiveText, you will find the template for the instruction commentary, which is pictured here. Download that template and type your responses directly on the template. Place your cursor between the brackets that are found for each response. You will not change font or formatting in any way. Just like with the planning commentary in Task 1, there is a page limit for the instruction commentary. In this case, the instruction commentary can be no more than 6 pages in length, which includes all of the prompts. Once again, there is a page count on the bottom right corner so you can track your length. And as a guide, aim for as close to the 6 pages as you can. Remember, for the edTPA, you are looking for elaboration and explanation, not brevity and conciseness. Take the time and the space to fully answer each question and prompt. So far in the edTPA, you have examined and reflected on your planning and on your actual instruction. For Task 3, you will reflect on how you know what students know. In other words, Task 3 is about assessing students. For this task, you will select one assessment from your learning segment. Then you will reflect on how the students performed, on what you learned from their assessments, and on what you might consider doing next with those students based on what you found in the assessments. Additionally, you will select the assessment of 3 students for closer analysis. In your handbook, go to the Task 3 What Do I Need to Do section to get more information. You can find it by looking at the table of contents and then clicking on the appropriate link. For Task 3, there are 4 parts. Part A includes the student work samples. This will be the assessments of the 3 students you choose to examine more closely. Part B demonstrates your feedback to the students. Part C is the assessment commentary, which is a template that you must download and use. Part D is the explanation or inclusion of the criteria that you used to evaluate the assessments. For Part A, you will be uploading student work samples. To make sure that you are meeting your specific content and grade level requirements, look at the What Do I Need to Do section of your handbook and pay very close attention to the kinds of things that you need to include here. Since it does vary, you will need to read your own handbook to make sure that you get everything. The assessment you choose for this task needs to be one that you included in Task 1, Part D, so be sure that there is a connection. Once you have chosen the kind of assessment that you need based on those specific requirements, you will choose 3 students' assessments as examples for the whole class. If you have students on the Context for Learning from Task 1, Part A listed as having special needs, then at least one student assessment should be from one of the students listed there. Before you upload the students' assessments, be sure to remove the students' names, which can be done in a variety of ways. However you do it, no one should be able to see the names of the students. Finally, each student assessment will be uploaded as a separate file and labeled as Student 1, Student 2, and Student 3. Part B of Task 3 is optional, but you need to make sure you understand why. This part should show evidence of your feedback to the students on their assessments. If you wrote on the students' assessments and provided written feedback and then uploaded that document, the one with your comments, as Part A, then you do not need to re-upload the same document here. If, however, your feedback is not included on the documents you uploaded in Part A, then you will need to upload that feedback here. If you uploaded clean copies before your comments in Part A, then simply upload the documents with your feedback here, labeled again as Student 1 feedback, Student 2 feedback, and Student 3 feedback. However, if the feedback is not written, if it is verbal, for example, then you need to include either audio or video files demonstrating that feedback. As an example, in kindergarten, students cannot necessarily read your feedback, and it might not be appropriate to give them written feedback on the assessment. In this case, you could record yourself giving the feedback to the student verbally, then you would upload that file here. If this is the case, if you need to include audio or visual feedback, you can include up to 4 files, but they should be no longer than 3 minutes each. If you need to upload examples of feedback here, make sure the files are all in the correct format and upload them as Part B. If you do not need to demonstrate feedback here because the feedback is uploaded as part of Part A, then you will not need to do anything else here. On LiveText, you will find the template for the assessment commentary, which is pictured here. Download that template and type your responses directly on the template. Place your cursor between the brackets that are found for each response. You will not change font or formatting in any way. Like the 2 commentaries from the other tasks, there is a page limit for the assessment commentary. In this case, the assessment commentary can be no more than 10 pages, which does include all of the prompts on the template. Once again, there's a page count on the bottom right corner so you can keep track of how long your document is. And once again, you should aim to get close to the maximum number of pages. Remember, the edTPA is about reflection, explanation, and elaboration, not brevity and conciseness, so be sure to fully explain all of your responses. Finally, Part D includes your evaluation criteria for the assessment you have chosen. You must define and submit the criteria you used to analyze or assess the specific chosen assessment. This can be a description of how you evaluated the assessment, or it can be an assessment tool like a rubric or checklist. However, it should tie directly to what you described in Task 1 as your main objectives and goals for the learning segment, and to what you actually taught in Task 2. The key here is alignment among the tasks, so you should see your main ideas from Task 1 taught in Task 2 and then assessed in Task 3. As you complete your edTPA materials, you will submit those through LiveText for your UW faculty supervisor to review. After your faculty supervisor has indicated that your edTPA materials are ready, you will be given a voucher to use to submit your edTPA materials to Pearson for national scoring. Upcoming materials in this module will provide more detailed information about how to carry out these uploads. If you need more assistance with developing and submitting your edTPA materials, you should first consult the information that you have, your edTPA handbook, and specifically the evidence chart in it, as well as the Making Good Choices document, which will walk you through the entire process. Your UW supervisor should be able to answer questions about the edTPA. I hope that you will see this process as a way to document that you are prepared to do everything that classroom teachers do for planning, instruction, and assessment, and that you can be reflective about your work and how well you are meeting students' needs.